American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Michael Sherwin. J. Robert Oppenheimer was one of the most interesting scientists of the 20th century. He was the director of the Manhattan Project, which is the origin story of the atomic bomb, and he's also very well known for his trials in 1954, where his security was taken away because of his communist ties. I read this book a few years ago and decided to reread it with the upcoming Christopher Nolan movie. The first time I read it, I thought it was definitely too long. I thought there was way too much about the show trial in 1954. I thought he obviously wasn't a communist. He's obviously not selling secrets to the Russians. So there was never an interesting underlying story in all of that part of the book. But in rereading it this time, I had the movie in mind, and especially the cast of the movie. So I was picturing Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer, Matt Damon as Groves, Robert Downey Jr. as the antagonist who's trying to take Oppenheimer down, Emily Blunt as Kitty Oppenheimer. So having these people in my head and having the active question in my mind, how is this going to play out as a movie, made going through all the details of the trial a lot more interesting. So having read the book with the movie in mind, it's fun to try to guess what the movie might be like in the hands of Christopher Nolan. I can see this book fitting well into his non-linear narrative structure. I picture courtroom scenes with flashbacks to the origin story of the atomic bomb, and these kind of playing together. I've never seen Christopher Nolan do a courtroom drama before, but I don't know how else you do this book in movie form, because that seems to be a big part of it. My main question is, what's the emphasis of the movie going to be? What's going to be the end moral of the story? I think in the book, the main things that I got from it was the interesting dynamic of how being a genius impacts your personality and your relationships with others. And the second main point of the book that struck out to me was the interaction between knowledge and pure science, and how that can interact with the social political pressures of the day. But the thing about movies versus books, books have a lot of time, and movies have to make a lot more of a focused point to the 2 or 3 hours that you have with the audience. So the movie, I really wonder how it's going to play out, what its emphasis is going to be. But back to the book. It's very well written, very well researched. Winner of the Pulitzer Prize in 2006, which I think makes a lot of sense. I actually liked a biography of Enrico Fermi a lot better than this one, called The Last Man Who Knew Everything. Fermi was a fascinating guy, so I'm hoping he gets his own movie one day. But rereading this Oppenheimer book was also very good. I'm glad I revisited it, especially in preparation. So I think before I would have given this book like 3.5 stars. This time I'm gonna give it 4 stars.